So happy Tuesday, everybody. Miss Regina, you can take it away. You should have sharing rights. Let me know if you need any assistance with that.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Professor Jay, thank you so much. Miss C, thank you so much. I look forward to spending this time with you all. Um, Happy post-snow day. There's a lot of snow that came down over the past 48 hours. Just to do a quick intro, my name is Regina Robinson. I am a finance executive and an entrepreneur. I've spent over 2 decades working in finance and leadership roles in private sector and in public sector. I've managed multi-million dollar budgets and I help organizations make smart decisions. And I am excited to be here with you to teach you about finances, to teach you about not just becoming and wanting to start a business, but putting on a CEO hat. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about being an entrepreneur. And I am just so excited about that. I want everybody's to be fully engaged. If you have a question, raise your hand. Let's make it as interactive as we can. And we are going to get started. Professor Jay, is there ground rules with regards to cameras being on? I just want to make sure. Um,
Yeah, so we definitely would like everyone to have their cameras on
okay,
as long as it's possible. Of course, if you're having some issue, you can let us know, but preferably cameras on, and that way we can see visual participation. And of course, when I want to jump in, when there's times for that as well.
perfect, perfect. And I will be controlling the presentation as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let me just load that up. My apologies. Just bear with me, everyone.
I love how some folks have the mood lighting going on. You guys are chilling.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
Thank you so much. Let me just, perfect. Okay, so let me get myself together here. I apologize for that. All right. Can you guys still see my screen? I don't see it anymore.
yes, yes, we can see your screen.
Do you see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's on the first slide of application of business.
Yeah, I don't see it, so I so apologize. Hold on, let me do this again.
No worries. You on a Windows or a Mac?
Windows.
Okay. I think if
Yeah.
you,
Do you guys see it now?
yes.
Perfect, perfect. So, good evening. We're going to be talking about applications of business. Just checking in with everyone. If you've been in the area here, you've either had snow days or virtual days. So you've been home dealing with this grimy weather. So everyone, how are you feeling today? And like I said, I want this to be very interactive with regards to how we are talking and how we're dealing with each other tonight. Our goals for today, it's Black History Month. So we want to think about some of our great leaders in the world, how they've made an impact on us as individuals, as us as a country. And just keep in mind that the sky is the limit with regards to anything you want to achieve, and some of the great people that we have here in front of us. I'm not here to just talk. Cameras on, mics off mute. Uh, just stay very engaged. If you have any questions as I'm moving along, please raise your hand. And let's just make it an interactive. I am going to enjoy this conversation with you guys. I'm going to enjoy just having a chat with regards to business. So welcome back in the shift. And I'm going to move this over here. Last week, I understand that you guys did discovery of your products. Is that correct? Yes? Does somebody want to tell me what they are thinking of with regards to their product, good, service, their brand? Anyone?
Can you elaborate like on what you mean?
So, from a discovery, so if you guys had a conversation last week and said, hey, I want to start a clothing store, that would be discovery of your product, brand, name identifier. Have you guys had that conversation yet? Have you started digging into what you would like to build as a product, as a service? A service means that I want to do hair. I want to have a beauty salon and providing a service of doing people's hair. A product. We all shop Amazon, hopefully. Amazon is filled with products. Are you selling a product? So goods, service, product. So that's what my question is around, discovery and product. Has anybody thought about it?
Mine was about because I have the ring up on my phone and all day today and all day yesterday it was blowing up on um hirings for like snow to get people to shovel their snow off their streets. And then last week when we were talking about business ideas that we had, I was talking about how in my street there was a lot of snow that would go around, and that was what I did, like a snow shoveling business or like a seasonal business to keep your place clean.
So, Roxy, that's a service. So that's under the service category. Snow shoveling is the seasonal, but if you look at it from a broader perspective, you can think of it as landscaping, right? So snow in the wintertime, lawn service in the fall and spring. So you can expand on it more from a landscaping versus a seasonality of shoveling snow. So thank you for that. Anyone else thought about discovery in their product and wanting to use this as a foundation to start building?
Tutoring,
Tutoring. I like that one. And what specialty? Like math, English, ELL?
algebra, and engineering.
Nice. Nice. I like that. That's again another service. So we're going to talk about that. Anybody else?
Mine was bakery.
Bakery. Rima, good. That's a product service. We're going to talk about that also because that one deals with cost of goods. It's not just time, it's a cost of good as well that's associated with that. Thank you, Rima. Anyone else? Okay.
Can
Okay,
I
back
jump in,
to,
Miss
yep,
Regina?
yep.
Just wanted to add a note. I know last week the way that it was framed was like they did a friction hunt, so they were asked to look for like friction in like the neighborhood, like to like identify a problem or opportunity.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
in terms of the discovery.
Okay.
But I guess I'll also say, just to add a note to that, to every student here, if you already had a business idea in your head that was like slightly different from, let's say, the friction hunt, you guys could start thinking and talking about that as well. Like if there's something you're passionate about, where it's like, all right, it might not be a friction in your neighborhood, but maybe it's a passion that you already have for like a business.
Professor Jay, thank you so much for that and giving me a little more background into what you guys discussed last week. Yeah, that's a great one. Like, think about it as, you know, I'm graduating. Even, right now, if I wanted to start a business, what does that look like? And this kind of conversation and this dialogue is going to be, is it a profitable business? Is it a hobby? And what does it look like today? And then what does it look like tomorrow? I'm going to stick with the three that we talked about. And if anyone else wants to chime in as we're talking, we can build upon those as examples. So we have a bakery, we have a landscaping, and for the seasonality of it, snow, and we have tutoring. Three great examples of, how we're going to integrate those into the conversation. And tonight, as we're talking, we're going to look at management of those businesses, right? Whether it's a local business, like how do you deal with your local environment? How can you provide a need? And that's something you should always ask yourself, can I provide a need to my community? Can I provide a good, a service, or a product in order to address a need in my community? And that is the friction part of the conversation, but also expanding on management, finance, marketing. How do you bring customers to you? So we're going to talk about all of that. And if I am moving too fast or you want me to slow it down, just, give me one of the little emojis there or just let me know if there's anything that I am talking about that maybe a little that you want to dig deeper into. So more than happy to um, get into it at the lowest granular level, but we are going to shift. So let's get into it. The three pillars of applications that we're going to talk about today. And I apologize if you see me looking down because I have a small screen in front of me and I have uh, papers in front of me just to make sure that I cover off on every piece of the lecture here tonight. Management, organizing resources, people, AI. How many of you guys, with a show of hands, are familiar with AI and the AI tools that are out there? How many of you guys are actively using AI as part of your schoolwork, your day to day? Yes? Maybe? No? Are you guys actively using AI?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, if I would say if you aren't actively using AI, um, we should get comfortable with it. If you have, we all have phones. There is a Gemini on your phone. If you have AI, um, it can help on so many different avenues. I always give a caveat as we explore AI and dig deeper into AI that you use it in a way that you understand that it is a machine. You use it in a way, let me rephrase that. I'll explain it from my perspective. I use AI as my third brain. It's my personal non-feeling self. You know, we deal in life with a lot of emotions, right? And if I ask it a question and I want to know, how do I bring a snow service to Union County? It will ask me it will spit out a series of things. Here is the landscape, here is the demographics, and you can slow it down and say, hey, no, I just want to focus on this area of town. I can service 5 people. How much should I charge? And it will create you a whole flyer delivery plan on doing that. And I would strongly encourage anyone that is not comfortable with AI to start getting comfortable with it. It's going to be a thing of the future. It's not going away. Finance. When we think about finance, tracking the flow of money, what's coming in, what's going out, we can talk about a bakery and we're going to talk about cost of goods sold. We're going to talk about price. How do we set our price? Tutoring. Tutoring is nothing but a service entry. It's time and resources. How much are you making? And then it's profit. Am I making money? That is the biggest thing when you are looking at your business, when you are looking at, do I want to start a business? Why do I want to start a business? And then, am I making money? And we always want to make money at the end of the day. We don't want to do things for free. Time is money. Our time is money. Our value is money. Every time we open our mouth, it is money. There is a value to you being here. There is a value to Professor J, Miss C, for I to be here. And always put the mindset on that I am a CEO. I am doing this because at the end of the day, I want to make money. And we are going to talk about, are you making money? And if you're not making money, sad to say, it is a hobby. And a hobby don't make money. So we want to keep that in mind. And marketing. How do you get noticed? Whether it's a bakery, you know, you can be the best cook in the world, the best baker in the world, but if people don't know you exist, all you're doing is just making food for friends and family. Snow business, landscaping business. If nobody knows you're there, nobody's going to call you and say, hey, I need my driveway cleaned. I need, you know, my lawn manicured. They're just not going to know. Tutoring. If you don't market it properly, how do you get people? How do you get clients? How do you service people? It is all about getting noticed, providing a service, getting your customers. It all runs hand in hand. And that is something that we are going to talk about tonight with regards to the 3 pillars of applications. Any questions? So let me ask everyone a question. What happens if you make a great product and you have customers? Do you think you're in a good place at that point? Based on what I've told you so far, we have management, we have finance, and we have marketing. Want to get the heads turning on it, want to get your mindset moving on it. Like, when do you start thinking, like, am I making money? Can I scale? Am I getting noticed? Think about it. Any thoughts?
I think that it's good, but it's also about like keeping that the standard,
Keeping that, Roxy, explain that again.
keeping it the standard, like making sure that what's going on right now is consistent and it stays that way.
I would agree with that, Roxy, but let me add something to your thought. So, what you put in place today may not be how your business runs tomorrow because you may have more clients, right? You may have found a way to make your snow removal business more efficient, and you may have to do some adjustments. So I always like to say there is a standard, which is called your SOPs or standard operating procedure, but then have some fluidness in that because as your business changes, you change. Okay. Anybody else want to chime in?
Well, it's like if your boat gets moving, doesn't mean like you stop pedaling at the same time. And
I'm
like,
sorry, Rima, can you speak up a little more?
yeah, I said, just because like your boat is like moving doesn't mean like you need to like stop pedaling or like adding more to your boat. Because I feel like if a storm hits your boat, you can't just be there without pedaling. Like you still need to like you'll be like, oh, like I have some customers, but maybe those are not enough. Maybe you still have more potential.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's called scaling, right? That's called how do I take my business from $100,000 a year business to $1 million a year business. And all of it can't be a manual driven process. So I agree with you, like always looking at it from a bigger window, from a broader perspective. So you're absolutely right, Rima. Anybody else wants to chime in? Okay. So we're going to look into the management and the org chart. Management is a coordination of activities to achieve a defined goal. We were just talking about this a little bit. The old way, hiring 5 different people. You have an HR person, a marketing person, a salesperson. You may have a finance person in order to get specific things done in your organization. The new way is orchestrating 5 different systems. They refer to it as AI or SaaS, systems as something. I apologize. I'm gonna grab it for you in a second. Um, SaaS, I believe it's called, and how to make yourself more efficient. And who runs your marketing? Who runs your finance? Who runs your ops? They give recommendations here. I use both Gemini and ChatGPT for my finances. I'm an old school person on that. I use Excel. I use spreadsheets. I use budget softwares from SAP to PeopleSoft to QuickBooks. I'm versed in all of them. And who runs your ops? Zapier, I'm not familiar with that one, but I'm certain that it's a good one with regards to how you can automate and make your organization efficient. When we're thinking about small businesses and when we're thinking about starting as an entrepreneur, you sit at the top of your organization. So until someone adds their business as we're talking, maybe after the break, we'll get some more examples. We have the CEO of a bakery, CEO of a landscaping business, and a CEO of a tutoring business here. And if you can see in this org chart, you sit at the top of that organization, and that carries a lot of responsibilities. In the beginning, when you're starting that organization, you may be a one-man show. When Rima talked about like looking at it from a bigger picture, as you're scaling, as you're getting bigger, you may need to bring another person on. And that person may be directly up under you as a second in charge, or it may be someone that helps at the lower level. When we think about like the tutoring business, you may have 50 clients. It may be impossible to service those 50 clients, and you may have 5 tutors that help you, service those clients. And your org chart and the structure of your organization will look similar to this, depending on the service. Snow plowing. You may have someone that handles this side of town, someone that handles this side of town. Baking. You may have someone that makes the cakes, someone that makes the cookies, someone that does the front part of, if you have a storefront, someone that does the front end of it. And all of them are part of your organizational structure. Hiring. Are you going to be responsible for the hiring? Are you going to bring somebody in to help with the hiring of staff? When you think about finances, are you going to manage the bookkeeping, or are you going to bring somebody in-house to hire to work and to manage the books, or are you going to outsource that? And all of that plays into the finances of an organization. And are you making money? And we are going to get into that as we're talking, but wanting to start here and saying, hey, as we're thinking about these businesses, as we're thinking about friction, as we're thinking about providing a service, whether it's to your community, whether it's providing a widget, as I call them, you can say, hey, I want to sell on Amazon. It's very lucrative, if you look through the things of selling a product on Amazon. Are you going to do that by yourself? Maybe. But if you're doing good volume, picking, packing, shipping, buying inventory, updating your website, pricing, all of that requires those lower level people. And at each step of the way, be open, be flexible. If the numbers are working, can I remain as a solo entrepreneur, being the CEO, being the HR person, being my department leads all into one? Or am I going to, or when can I start bringing people on? Does that make sense, everyone? Anybody have any questions on that? Okay, good. Language of money. My favorite topic is always about money. Uh, I've been around dollars and cents for a very long time. One of my first jobs was with an attorney as his bookkeeper. Um, and if you get comfortable with the language of money, you'll never be afraid of it. And that took me something to learn a long time ago. And the language of money and the dollars is another zero added to it. And I want you guys to really think about it, that it's nothing to be afraid of if you understand what each level of your financials look like when you're thinking about starting a business, when you think about owning a business, when you think about how, whether it's your mom, your dad, your grandparents, and they work 30 years at one job. That may not be the case as we move into this age of entrepreneurial AI and being able to make that shift as the world is shifting. But money will never change. And that is the beauty of this. The language of money and understanding it at each level never, never changes. It's looking at it from, and I'm going to read it and then we're going to talk about it. Looking at revenue. When I say revenue, what does revenue mean? I want three people to tell me what revenue means to them.
The amount of money you make.
Next person.
Income.
Next person.
What's left over, like out of like after all the
You said what's left over? Yes and no. And when we think about revenue, and it says revenue is top line, the total amount of money bringing in from sales before expenses. So, yes, revenue, the amount of money I'm making. Yep, I'm making money. I'm selling a good or service. I've charged my price. My price is my price. I'm bringing money in. Top line. Income. Yep. There's money coming into the till. I see the money coming in because I'm charging for a good or service. That money is coming in. What's left over? Could be revenue, right? Because I still have some money left over, but we got to factor in all of these other things. And we're going to talk about them. COGS, cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold is the direct cost to produce one unit of your product. The t-shirt, blank, the ink, cost of goods. I'm going to use the example of the bakery if you all can participate in this. The cost of the bakery and gross profit before we get into the operating expenses and net profit. We have revenue. We have a bakery. Rima, can you tell me the name of your bakery?
Um, I don't know. Let's do. I have no idea.
Somebody help Rima.
Actually,
Give
no.
Rima.
Let's do Remalicious.
Rima-licious. Okay. Okay, everyone. We're going to help Rima-licious do their launch of their bakery. What are we selling in Rima-licious?
Like fancy cakes, like fruit cakes, all types of like fancy cakes and stuff like that.
We have cakes. Let's say cakes, cookies, donuts. Sounds good? Okay. How much are you selling those cakes for?
Well, it depends on how much money I need to make it. Like the cost of like the flour, the eggs. Isn't that like isn't that like what makes like the money, like, right?
That's
You
a good
calculate
answer.
how much you need and then you add like a topper on top so you're still getting like money back.
That's a great answer because it's not how much you're going to sell it for without knowing how much it's going to cost you and how much profit you want to make. So that's a great answer because before we can start thinking about how much we're selling it for, we need to know how much it's going to cost us, right? And people generally make a mistake in saying, I want to sell this cake for $10, but it's costing me $15 to make it. And then we got to look at it. So thank you for saying that. Thank you for thinking and understanding my question. When we think about revenue, we think about the cost of goods sold. When we think about gross profit, we want to make sure that our gross profit isn't in the negative, right? We want to make sure as we're coming out the gate, whether it's for a landscaping business, whether it's for a tutoring business. Because even with tutoring, Nabia, you said tutoring, correct? Did I get that right? Yes, I think so. Like time is value, time is money. And you don't want to sell yourself short when you're charging for tutoring services to make sure that you are making money. Because although you don't have a true cog, like you haven't gone out and bought something, your time is valuable also. And then we want to look at operating expenses. What are the costs of selling that cake, those cookies, those donuts, like the building, the boxes, the packaging, like all of that stuff has cost to it, right? People, I got to bring people in to help me sell these cakes. What is that operating cost looking like? Rent, utilities, all of that runs into and it flows down into a net profit, bottom line. And that is the question when we're thinking about it. Are we making money? And that is something most people coming out of the gate don't really factor in. They don't really look at the bottom line. They don't really know, are they making money? I'm going to pause there. Any questions?
What makes the top line and the bottom line the bottom line?
So, top line, if you have, I'm going to say, let's talk about your snow removal business. You have $100 that you have received for your business this past weekend. That's your top line revenue. But while you were doing that, you had three people with you that were helping you shovel, right? So now you've paid each one of them $10. So you started out with $100. You got three people that you've had to pay $10. But then you went out and bought some shovels and you got salt, right? So the shovels and the salt are goods, cost of goods, right? So that ended up being another $25. So now your top line revenue is that $100. Your cost of goods is the $25 for materials in order to do the business. Then you have a gross profit line, but then you got to pay your people. So that's how it flows down. So your revenue, your top line is how much you made, but then you have to factor in all of the other expenditures to get down to that net profit. And I think that's where a lot of people lose sight. So people may say, hey, I'm making $100,000 a year on my business, or in this example, $100, but they forget that they have all of these other ebbs and flows that are coming out and they forget to factor that in. And a legal, legit business also pays taxes, may also pay rent. You have gas in a car, insurance on the car. All of that stuff has to be factored in order to say, am I a profitable business? Roxy, did that answer your question?
So it's like a start line and a finish line?
Yes, that's a
Okay.
good. That is a great example of explaining it. Yep, that where you start and where you end. And you always want to make sure that you are running a profitable business. Any other questions? Everyone else is okay? Doing a pulse check? Kimberly, you okay over there? Good. Caroline? Good. Okay. Jaylene? Perfect. I saw a thumbs up. Love it. Okay. Wanting to make sure. Evan, you're good? Perfect. Good, good, good. Yeah, so want to make sure that you understand when you're thinking about a business, thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, you are at the top of that, but you want to make sure that you are running a profitable business. Unit economics, when we think about contribution margins, this is technical. I'll make sure I walk it through slow. When we think about the formula, and we talked about this, right? Unit economics, the atom of your business, and the direct revenues and costs associated with a particular business model expressed on a per unit basis. And the formula behind it, I'm going to go back to Remalicious for a second, because it's not just selling the cake for $10, because it may cost $8 to make that cake. Hopefully it doesn't, but it's a possibility if you're not paying attention to what it costs to wrap around that price if you're not paying attention to it. And what is the unit cost? So a bag of flour, a dozen eggs in the case of a fruit cake. You got cherries and dates and a whole bunch of things go into a fruit cake. What is that unit? Because does that all of those ingredients make 5 cakes or does it make 10 cakes? And then there is a unit cost because all of those ingredients that we just purchased, we want to get as much out of it as we can because that also factors in price. Because if you're spending $25 to make 25 cakes and you're selling them for $10, that's a great margin. That's a great profit because each cake is only costing you $1 to make, but you're selling them for $10. So whereas it's cost you $25 to make them, there is a formula. And if you ever go into the supermarket, you'll see it on the little tags. It tells you what the unit cost is. Um, and as you go into the supermarket, pay attention to it. Like look around. You'll see where it says like 12 cents a unit or $1.89 a unit. Like if you go into Sam's Club or Costco's, it kind of compares like what the unit cost is for comparable items in the store, like whether it's the store brand water versus Poland spring water. And they tell you what the unit cost is because it tells you what each one of those units cost. And the bigger you buy on volume, the cheaper it costs. And that has nothing to do with how much you sell it for. I think about, and hopefully we've all seen this, whether in the summertime at a game, they sell bottled water for $1 a bottle, right? And if you go buy a case of water, they may end up at 25 cents a bottle, but they're selling them for $1. That's a good markup, right? When we think about people that sell candy, they buy the box of candy from the Sam's Club or Costco's, and they're selling them for $1 a pack. Um, those are good margins on those. So just keep that into perspective when we're thinking about unit revenue and unit cost and what your retail or what your price is going to be. And why does that matter? Because if you're losing money on every unit, you can't make that up in volume. Does everybody know what that means?
Meaning like you can't have a profit of your own.
Correct. Exactly, Roxy. That's exactly what it means. So understanding what it costs. Rima, when we're talking about a bakery, if you're spending all of this money because you want to make the best fruit cakes in the world and you got all of these fancy ingredients in it, and if your price point isn't right, and if you're selling your units, your cakes at $3 versus $10, but it's costing you $5 to make that cake, you're not making any money. And Roxy said it best, like you're not making any money. So it's not just saying, well, I want to bake cakes. You got to take it from how much does those ingredients cost me? How many cakes is that am I producing from that? And then what is the unit cost in order to set your price? Any questions?
Is that how like inflation works?
I'm sorry?
Is that how like kind of inflation ties into things? Because if inflation goes up, so does the value of money. Well, the value
Absolutely.
of money decreases while the product rises.
Yeah, your buying power decreases while the prices are going up, right? So whereas you could go to the store and let's let's do milk, no eggs, because last year make eggs was like ridiculous, right? You can go buy a dozen of eggs for just say $3, but a year ago they were like $10 a dozen. It was like some ridiculous amount. So inflation does play a part in that. And as a CEO, whether it's a landscaping business, whether it's a tutoring business, whether it's a bakery, whether it's a car detailing business, whether it's a clothing shop, we always got to think about, and that's a great question. We always got to think about inflation. The thing in the news right now has been about the tariffs. If you guys have been paying any attention to it, and the government said, oops, that was illegal. But, you know, whether it's our parents or someone, think about a car. If you all were purchasing cars over the past year, you were probably paying from $20,000, some $5,000 to $20,000 more for that car through inflation. Just when we go out to the restaurant, when we go to have pizza, when we go to Jersey Garden malls, I bought two pretzels the other day from Jersey Garden Malls. They were $21 for those two pretzels. Now, if I would have paid attention to the price, I wouldn't have bought those pretzels. But I wasn't paying attention to the price until the lady had rung it up. And that's all inflation. It's the cost of buying the goods, buying the materials in order to sell them to the consumers. Great question on inflation. We should be paying attention to it. Yes, Roxy.
Is that why we have like fluidity in businesses so that when inflation does occur, you're able to change the business with it as well?
Absolutely. And what you should think about is how many of you guys drink Arizona teas or the Arizona beverages, right? There was an article about that. What is the price point? Do you know what the price point of the Arizona is?
175.
175. And for the longest time, how much was Arizona teas?
99 cents.
99 cents, exactly. And for years, where prices were rising, they kept their prices flat. They adjusted. They had built a model of scale that said, regardless, we will be able to cover and maintain our top line revenue. We will cover our COGS, and this price point gives us the profit and margins that we want. For years, Arizona teas were always 99 cents. You can go into a store, 99 cents. And then one day they changed, right? Because Jay Sang said inflation, right? Labor goes up. The cost of doing business goes up. The price of machinery, the price of healthcare benefits, the price of insurance goes up. All of that now says, hey, our product, we want to stay at 99 cents, but realistically, we are no longer in the black of our profit. We are now floating close to the red, and we have to make an adjustment. And that adjustment becomes the fluidity where we have to now increase our price. Does that make sense? Any questions? Perfect. I just want to make sure we keep our CEO hat on, keep it up here, thinking about running a business, thinking about what I want to do. And I'm not sure, I don't want to change the page because I think we might be going into a quick break for you guys, but I want to ask each of you a question. As a CEO, as a friction, providing a good and service in your community, if you were to start a business today, how much money would you want to make out of that business? And the reason why I asked that question, over the summer, I was teaching one of the other cohorts, and someone threw out a number. I think they said like 80,000. And I'm like, that's a good number. But when we go back to this model here, when we go back and look here, 80,000 on a top line, 80,000 is a good number. But then when we get to that net profit, are we still at 80,000?
No.
Exactly. We're not at 80,000. And we have to kind of back into it and saying, hey, I want my profit to be 80,000, right? And we got to back into that number. And the bigger question and the key takeaway is, can we sustain our business if I want to net 80,000, which may require me doing 200,000 in top line revenue to get to that net 80,000. It may be 100,000. And then what is my price point? What am I servicing? What am I selling? What am I providing? How many cakes, donuts, cookies do I have to bake in order to get to my net profit of 80,000? How much can I pay my employees, or am I going to be a solo entrepreneur? It all factors in. And I want each of you to keep that in mind that says, understand understand what you want as a profit, as a net profit. And then we have to figure out how to get you there. Make sense? Good. Any questions? Okay. The unit calculator, and I know we talked about this, and I will just go through this part of it. The unit calculator, in here it talks about a t-shirt, lawn care business. We kind of talked about the bakery versus the t-shirt as a price, understanding the COGS and what your margin is. Always make sure that your margins, which is your gross profit, right? Before you take away all of your expenses, can cover any additional people you're paying, whether you have a brick and mortar store, if you're operating out of your home becomes a home office for you, making sure whether it's supplies, pencil, your cell phone, rent, rent to mom, rent to dad, whatever it is, making sure that it's all factored in there so that $15 margin doesn't turn into a negative $5 margin. We want to make sure that we understand that if we're selling a t-shirt, if we're baking, if we're doing lawn care business, if we're doing tutoring, that we have a healthy margin at the end of the day. And whether it's a good or a service, that we understand what it is. And then we have digital, whether it's an ebook, right? Whether it's on Etsy, I think ETSY, whether you can create something and set it and forget it. And every time someone downloads your digital platform, you're making money on it. That is a great business under the digital platforms, to set it and forget it, because all you're doing is doing residual income. It's just generating more money, and you don't have to worry about the cogs on it. So let's keep that in mind that there are all different ways on it, right? There are all different ways on whether your margins stay here, they get higher, and you don't incur cogs on them. So there's an activity here with regards to, and you can write this down, with regards to defining your unit, your 1 hour, one item, one download. And what does that look like? And estimating your price, estimating your COGS, and tell me what your margin is. So take your own business. I know we have 3 on the floor right now. We have a bakery, a snow removal business, and a tutoring. Where does yours fall into here? Is it a physical business? Is it a service business? And I say goods. Here it says physical. So is it a goods business? Is it a service business? Is it a digital business? And does it have COGS attached to it? Yes or no? And then what is your margin? Give me a couple of numbers out there. Tell me what your top line is or your unit. Tell me what you would sell it for. If COGS are attached, yes or no. And you can tell me whether it's profitable or not from a margin perspective. I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. Okay, anyone wants to share? Still working on it? Okay. Does anybody need help? Any clarity on the question?
Well, I don't know how to estimate my price. Well, I know what my cogs are gonna be though.
So think about define your unit, right? For you, Rima, look at it as your unit would be a cake, right?
Yeah.
So how much would that cake cost to make?
Well, a cake usually takes about 3 eggs and 1 cup of milk. No, Yeah, well, it depends on what type of cake. 1 cup of milk or water, and then about like a quarter of oil or butter.
Right. So for you, it becomes technical, right? Because you got to break
Mhm.
down like a dozen of eggs. So if you say a dozen of eggs is $3, let's do round numbers, $3.60, right? So $3, that's 30 cents an egg, right? 30 times 12,
Correct.
yeah, 30 cents an egg. So you need 3 eggs, that's 90 cents, right?
Correct.
So then, 4 pound bag of flour, whatever. So roughly say a cup of flour is 50 cents, right?
Okay.
Um, just use rough numbers. So 3 cups of sugar, a dollar or 75 cents for the sugar, and kind of break it down like that. And just say, hey, it may cost me 50 cents for the cup of sugar, 75 cents for the flour, in order to come up with what that unit cost would be to make
Okay.
that cake.
Okay. Thanks.
Anyone else need clarity?
I have
Roxy
a
had her hand up.
Yeah, for like landscaping, like how do you figure out what your cogs are? If it's more of like physical things you have and depending on its durability, but then that depends on the quality, but then that depends on the price. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, so for yours, so if you have a snow blower, right? So let's think of it as like a snow machine, right? So if you're doing it by yourself, you have equipment, and then you have the gas or electric, because they come with those, right? So you have to factor that in. And then you also, if you're having people work with you, you should include that labor cost. Some people would say no, but I would include that labor cost because you have to pay those people. Thank you, Missy.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Anyone wants to chime in? Anyone else, going back to the original question, want to think about or share um, their business thought, their friction? Anyone else wants to add to the conversation so we can walk it through? Anyone thought about a clothing business?
I have a question.
Yep.
Um, so you know how like there's like the total cost like of how much it costs you to cost, right? How much do you know is the right amount to add like a topper for your like you know what I'm talking about? Like you know how like if something costs like a certain price, you add more money to it, so you're still getting the benefit back. You're still getting money back. How do you know how much to put on?
That's a great question. I'll give you a rule of thumb. I used to work for Nestle, the candy company. And when we used to do product launches, the head guy would also say, model out that our margin would never be less than 45%. So, and it's a math calculation, right? So Nestle would never release a product if the margin was less than 45%. That means whatever their SRP, which is their suggested retail price, factoring in what you're saying said, like inflation things go on sale at the store, we still want to make sure we maintain our 45% because as a organization, that's a healthy margin for us. So Rima, when you think about it, now Nestle is one of the top companies out there. They live on volume. So as a smaller business, you may say, I want to make sure for every cake I sell, I want $5 in my pocket because it's just me. That may be a healthy margin for you now. And as your volume grows, and if you're bringing in more people, you may still say, I still want my $5 in my pocket, but I got to pay all of these other factors now. And what happens in that case? Your price goes up, right? Did that answer your question? Okay, good. And while you guys are writing, just to understand the calculation on the margin when I said 45%, that means for every dollar, they want 45 cents over here.
Ms. Regina, do you have any, I guess, examples from like, I guess if people did the multiples approach, meaning like, uh, whatever the, let's say, base cost is, they might multiply by 3 or multiply by 5. I know it's like another way to calculate it.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, let me thank you for that. Let me see how to, I don't know how to use the whiteboard on here. Bear with me. I'll put it up for you. Let's see. Now, Professor J, this is where I get lost on Zoom.
Oh,
Like,
no worries. If you click on more, it should, you might see a button on the bottom that says more, and whiteboard should pop up as an option in that list.
On mine, whiteboards is right next to the more button, the circle option.
okay. Okay.
And the basis of my question, Ms. Regina, I guess, is some folks, I guess, since you have a finance background, I wanted to know what you thought about some folks. They give a simple approach. It might say like, oh, just multiply by 3, pay yourself and pay for the product, and then have some for savings. Like, is that always good? Like, when does it get more complicated than that? You know
Tricky,
what I
right?
mean?
It's
Like, that's a very
tricky. Right, it's tricky, and that's why I paused because it depends on whether it's a good or service, right? And I don't see whiteboard on here. I see transcript, breakout rooms, polls. Um, I don't see that. Yeah, Professor J, it's tricky, and it depends on that. Um, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, I guess to your point, maybe like for simple businesses, maybe it's something to try. Um, I don't know if everyone's seeing this here.
You bring the whiteboard up, JR, what you did?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, I can see it too. I didn't get that. My bad.
I don't know if it's host or co-host, but if
It's
you
on
wanna,
host only.
oh, okay.
But
Um,
but initiating it says all participants though.
okay. So I guess sometimes, like, let's say you're like to Rima's point of like figuring out her costs. Let's say buying everything for what you're gonna for 1 unit costs you $5. Some theories, like one, I guess the easy theory is like you multiply this by 3 to get your cost. Like whatever it is, you multiply by that by 3, and that's your sale price to start with. But I'm sure Mr. Gina can share, like, as you scale, that might get a bit more complicated. It might work for like a lemonade stand, but as you
You,
scale, it might, yeah.
and Professor Jay, that just stay with that, right? And
Mhm.
let's talk about Remalicious, right? If we buy a pound of, a 5 pound bag of flour, right? A dozen eggs and all the other ingredients that go into making a batch. Let's say a batch. It may cost $15. We don't know. So using that factor of 3, it depends. And I had to put my consumer products company hat on for a second because the financial modeling looked at each SKU separately to make sure, without getting too technical, to make sure that it can sustain the margin baseline. So that's why I was hesitant and to say that. And from a entrepreneurial perspective, like the cohort as a CEO, and hopefully this makes sense to everyone, like you want to make sure you understand what your goods or services are worth before you apply that factor.
Right. Like that's your starting point, you're
Right.
saying.
Right. And then you can do the multiples because now that you're out there buying, a 5 pound bag of flour, a 25 pound bag of sugar, you're buying 30 eggs at one shot, that cost is starting to shrink. And then you can do your factor because then, like, no matter what you buy, where you buy it from, your price is protected. And I want to make sure that everyone on this Zoom understands what we are talking about. And if you don't, please raise your hand.
Jason raised his hand. I don't know if you saw.
I did not. Okay. So let's talk about this. And if everyone can come off of mute for a second. I'm going to go back to the example in the PowerPoint, a t-shirt business, right? But we're going to do a t-shirt business that we do graphics on it. Okay?
Mhm.
And everybody's not off of mute because I want you guys to participate in this because I think it's important that we understand the numbers. This was a valuable lesson to me many years ago about the numbers. So we're going to table Bremalicious for a second. It's a great example, but we're going to talk about t-shirts and a graphics business, graphic design business. What do you think you need? And I want everybody to tell me one thing. What do you think you need for launching a t-shirt graphic design business that has nothing but 2 flowers, 2 butterflies, and your name on it?
Oh,
Me
website.
too.
Website?
Some type
Yeah.
of device to do it on.
Device? What type of device? Who said that?
Me.
Okay. Evan?
Like probably like a laptop, which would probably be easier to use.
Okay. What else do we need to launch this t-shirt business?
Marketing,
Marketing. What else?
Colors,
Colors. What kind of colors?
resources.
What type of colors? What kind of colors?
like red, green for like the flowers, or like depending on what flower they like, they can like change it.
Okay. We're gonna come back to that for a second. I got a couple of questions. What else?
Shirts.
Shirts, right? We need the shirts, right? What else?
Ink,
Ink. Who said that?
me, Roxy.
See, okay. Gonna come back to you and Jay Sang in a second. What else?
Like a sewing machine.
A sewing machine. Why a sewing machine? Isaac, you said that?
Yeah.
Why a sewing machine? You know how to sew?
Nah.
No? Okay. You should learn how to sew. It's pretty cool. My son sews. He
My
makes,
grandma know how to sew.
yeah. Just tell your grandma to teach you how to sew. It's lucrative business. Become a designer. What else?
Place of operation,
Place of operations. What is a place of operations?
like the building or area you would like set up your business to,
Okay.
make it.
Okay. What else? I haven't heard from everybody. I don't have everybody's like thoughts on running this t-shirt business.
Resources to like ship it out.
Shipping. Right. Okay. What else?
I've seen machinery that people use to like print out the images onto the shirt. So you'd also need the money for that.
Machinery. I know it as a heat press machine. I don't know if it's called something else. Is that what it's called?
It depends on how you also want to have it. Like you could sew the flowers on, you could 3D print them on, or
Right.
yeah.
Embroidery, right?
Hmm.
Okay. What else?
Employees,
Employees. The infamous employees, right? Let's talk about
Customers.
customers. Let's put customers as CEOs right at the top because we're doing all of this and we don't have no customers to buy our t-shirts, right? In order to get the customers, we need marketing,
Some capital.
right? Capital. Right. Everybody chimed in? All right, let's start breaking this down. Miss C, do we have time before break? I lost track of time.
Yeah, they'll just need a break pretty soon. But yeah.
Okay, just keep me honest on the time. So let's
Hmm.
talk about this. This was great because I want you guys to think about this, right? Think about this t-shirt business. Anybody on this Zoom could launch a t-shirt business right from where they're at right now. And people are making decent money launching t-shirt businesses. I'm going to give you two things to think about. You can do it with all of this overhead, or you can do it without all of this overhead. And what does overhead mean? There's this lovely tool out there that's called Canva. How many of you guys have heard of Canva?
Me.
Yay, I like that, right? You can create a whole marketing design with the two butterflies. What did I say? Two butterflies, your name, and what else? What did I say? I forgot.
Two.
Flowers.
Two butterflies, flowers with your name on it. You can create You can ask the AI in Canva to create me Roxy's digital print with two flowers and two butterflies in it to give you 6 iterations of it. You can say, Isaac can say, I want this, and it'll create you the designs. You can go to Walmart and buy the transfer paper because we forgot about the paper, right? You can go to Walmart and get the transfer paper. You can download that image from Canva, put it on the transfer paper, put it on a t-shirt, and you know what? You're in business. It's as easy as that. Now, if you want to get fancy about it, then you create your website, right? How much does a website cost? Marketing, how are you going to attract your customers? The quality of the t-shirt. Are you going to go to Dollar General or are you going to the Hanes outlet at the mall? Like, where are you getting your t-shirts from? Are you buying retail t-shirts in smaller quantities where the price is higher, or are you going and buying them in bulk as a wholesale price, right? Are you doing uh what did I say? 3D printing? Are you doing heat press? Are you doing embroidery? They're all different where you guys would not ever be competing against each other in your own personalized t-shirt business. Because number one, I see 15 different names on here. Butterflies come in all different colors. There's hundreds of different flowers out there. All of you could create different designs and launch a t-shirt business as we end this call today. Now, here is the question as we go to break. With all of this, the ink, and Jason, we talked about colors because it's not just colors, right? What type of ink? There's so many different inks out there when you go to the store. Is it watercolors? Is it acrylics? You know, non-fading. I don't know all the names, but I'm sure we can figure them all out, right? If we think about embroidery, um, I love to sew. I've been sewing all my life. One day, my son what is it called? He deconstructed a pair of old jeans and made one of those little cross sashes. He started sewing. He went and bought an embroidery machine. He started taking his old designs and loading them into the digital embroidery machine. And he started creating these little sash pop pouches that you guys all wear. Um, so there is so many things that you guys can think about. And with all of this that you guys blurted out and talked about, we have not talked about top line revenue and making some money. Now, I know I went round the way from our original question because there is a unit cost when we're thinking about this. Because if you buy a dozen t-shirts, that dozen t-shirts, there's 12 in a dozen. If it charges you $60 for that dozen, that means one t-shirt is $5, correct? Somebody can math check me, right? If a dozen t-shirts is $60, that's $5 each. That's what we're talking about as the unit cost. So make sure you follow me. So that t-shirt, the person that said t-shirt, I mean, so we know our unit cost is starting with $5. Now we got to think about those colors. Are we thinking transferable paints? Are we thinking embroidery? How much does that cost? Because you may buy 5 different color paints that may cost you $10, but you're now producing for one t-shirt. So those colors may end up being another dollar. And then you're talking about shipping costs. Do you pass the shipping costs on to the customer? Do you sell them like friends and family, like I'm dropping it off to you to lower that shipping cost? You got to think about that. Marketing, website, all of that stuff plays into what your true unit cost is. And that's why I said to Professor J, it depends. Because depending on what you're going to launch as a business, when Roxy thinks about a snow removal business, she don't have a lot of things to factor in. But Rima, who is thinking of Remalicious, has a whole bunch of other little widgets to factor in that. When you're thinking about a t-shirt business, it's not just, I'm going to go buy a t-shirt and go run a design out of Canva. because there is cost of paper, cost of thread, cost of ink, website. How am I going to sell this? And that unit cost goes from $5 a t-shirt to probably $17 a t-shirt. And if you're thinking, well, I'm going to sell my t-shirts for $10, you just missed the whole boat on all of it. So that's why I was saying that you need to, as a CEO, understand what the true cost is. And then you say, I will never go beyond this. Well, never is never. But for now, I'm never going to go beyond this price because then it will always protect your profit and it will get you to your $80,000. And I'm going to pause right there. Any questions? Did that make sense? Did I confuse anybody with that? Raise your hand. Say, Miss Regina, you just confused the heck out of me. Like, I don't know what you just said. Like, I'm open to that. Perfect. Miss C, is it a good time for a break?
Yep.
Are you guys ready for a break?
Yes.
Perfect. How long is break?
You can do 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay. Let's do a
Mhm.
5-minute break, everyone.
So 7:05. Excuse me, 8:05.
Okay.
I'm in Central.
Thank you so much. On.
Mr. Janae, you would just have to share again when you're ready.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to jump back in and continue. We're going to talk and move on through our lecture about customer acquisition costs. And we've been talking about this. It's building the foundation and the blocks on what we are talking about, and defining what customer acquisition cost is. And it's the total cost of sales and marketing aimed at acquiring a new customer. And hopefully one day getting to scale where we're automating and we are not having such high acquisition costs along the way. Marketing dollars is big. It can be big with AI, with technology, with social media today. You know, that set it and forget it model is out there where marketing dollars to get high revenue and reaching a broader new customer reach is different than it was probably 20 years ago. So, but you still have to understand that customers are not free. Marketing, every budget, every org business should have some form of marketing dollars put in their budget on what they're going to spend. The example here is $100 on Instagram, whether it's Instagram ads, and how much money are you spending and how many customers are you acquiring through those marketing dollars. It's important to know that those dollars or the return on investment has a value to it. I always tell people don't shy away from marketing. Don't shy away from making sure you have some money in your budget for marketing, but also be able to track the spending. Am I acquiring one customer or am I acquiring 10 customers for the $100 in this example? And just keeping a pulse on it. Lifetime value, LTV, the total amount of money a customer is expected to spend with your business during their lifetime. It's the average purchase value times purchase frequency over a lifespan. And it depends. When we think about the tutoring, what's the lifetime value of that customer? Because if you're tutoring someone in ninth and 10th grade, preparing them for SATs, preparing them for graduation, there's only so many turns to that customer versus somebody that is a frequent customer of a bakery, loves the fruitcakes, will come there. They've been coming to the bakery from when they were a child all the way up to an adult, and they bring their families to your bakery. Someone that purchases t-shirts, we are all t-shirt wearers in the summertime, throughout the year, seasonality. What is the lifetime value of those customers? Each customer is different. The example that it gives you here, it talks about a customer that buys a $20 haircut every month for 2 years, for whether it's a haircut, whether it's your nails. Like the nail salon can almost count on what the lifetime value is of it, what the trend is, what is the latest trend, and being able to factor that in, and then tapping into marketing dollars again. Like, how do I acquire? Going back to the last slide, how do I acquire more customers? Because as customers are turning, as customers are going to the next trend, how do we keep our pool of customers and our business operational? Someone said earlier about being fluid. How do we keep our business relevant? Keeping a pulse on trends, keeping a pulse on what's happening in the industry, keeping a pulse on, whether it's a clothing business, whether it's a seasonal business like a snow removal business. This year is very lucrative for a snow removal business versus in some of the prior years because we probably had one heavy snow. Do you buy new equipment, you know, next year or this year? Like it all factors into it. But understanding the behavior of your customer. Any questions? And you also want to make sure that with your customers, like what their value is and value from a dollar perspective. And the example, staying with the example at the bottom, $20 haircut every month for 2 years. That one customer gives you $480 in a lifetime value. And you want to make sure that there's 1 to 2 customers in queue in the pipeline that replaces that customer as that customer moves on or goes somewhere else. So you want to always make sure you have a pipeline or bringing additional value into your business. Never take for granted that customers are loyal to you. The golden ratio, the LTV and the acquisition. Your LTV should always be greater than your acquisition. I like the rule of thumb 3 to 1. Absolutely. You should always have 3 times, your LTV should always be 3 times higher than your customer acquisition. It's a safe zone. When you're dealing with a 1-to-1, if that person drops off tomorrow, you lose money, right? And you always want to make sure that there is a balance to it. You don't want to be in the safe break-even zone. You always want to make sure for every one that you have 3 more in queue. You want to make sure that you always have a pipeline of people to protect your business. Thinking of it with your CEO hat in, thinking of your top line revenue, thinking of your cost of goods. You want to make sure that you have customers in queue because you are still buying your goods. You still have to sell those goods. And if your ratios start to shift and adjust, you are going to start losing money because you don't have someone in queue to buy your goods or service. And they say here the dream is a 5-to-1 ratio. Absolutely. And that is some serious marketing, right? Some people are better than others with marketing. Marketing, 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 marketing. I am a big proponent on marketing. You can use AI tools, you can use Canva, you can use social media. Marketing is a huge aspect to any successful business, knowing how to sell your good and service, knowing how to promote that t-shirt, right? Knowing what colors, what schematics, what butterflies, whether it's the font, whether it's the print, whether it's embroidery. All of that comes into marketing. All of that comes into being able to sell your product. Trying to keep you guys on my screen, so I'm moving it around as I'm reading the slides here. Interactive scenario, the scaling decision. Okay, so now we're talking about running a sneaker cleaning service. Again, full participation here. So the question becomes, you're running a sneaker cleaning service. To clean sneakers, price is $30, COGS is $5, and you have a $25 profit. Your customer acquisition cost, it costs you $10 in flyers to get one client. The problem is you have $100 left in the bank. Wow. That's a tough one. So the choices, do we spend the $100 on more flyers? We get 10 additional clients, $250 in profit. We spend $100 on better soap. We lower our COGS to $2, but no new clients, or we save the $100. Let's talk about it. What would you think? What do you think you would want to do?
Wouldn't it be possible to do all three if you just did it in a particular order?
Explain yourself. What do you think?
If you spent the $100 on the flyers, you'd get the 250 profit, and then you could spend it on better soap, and then you could also save the rest.
So you spend 100 on the flyers, and then you want to spend 100 on soap. Is that what you're saying?
The profit from the 100 on the flyers.
So now your profit goes down to 150 because now you have increased cost of goods, right? So you're no longer at a $250 profit. Let me hear someone else's thoughts on it. Anyone else? What would you do?
Could you like spend the $100 on better soap, and then with the clients that you already have, you would make more money that way, and then eventually you could spend more on the flyers, and then the rest you could save.
You could, possibly. Anyone else?
I would spend the money on the flyers
Why?
because I feel like you get more profit, and then if you want to get better soap later on, well, you'll get more customers with that. So then your profit with the customers you already have, your returning customers and the new customers, you'll get more and more profit. So with that, like with the profit that you're getting now, you could probably end up like later on getting the better soap and then probably making more profit from it. And then you could also save if you want to. But personally, I feel like I would mostly spend more money on the flyers because that means you get more customers, and the more customers you get is the more profit altogether. So,
Anyone else? Okay. Let me ask you all a question. Because I think you probably could do all of these, right? My question is there anything wrong with the soap that you have? Have you gotten any complaints under your shoe cleaning business that the quality of your service sucks?
I mean, if no one's complaining about anything. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
So let's think about it, right? Let's put it into perspective. So when we're thinking about the choices, like think about, providing customer service. I'm big on customer service. Think about customer service. Think about your clientele and thinking about growing your business, right? And you have choices. Spending more on marketing, spending more on growing your business is good. It's always good to grow your business, to bring more clients in. When we think about the price, can we adjust our price? Because if we're spending more money on a better soap, that means our COGS are going up as well, right? Can we afford to adjust our price? And if we adjust our price, do we lose clients? So just think about it, right? Just think about it. And then we save. Application, playbook entry, in the spirit of time, because I think I lost track of time, so my apologies on that. Application, playbook entry, my unit, 1 hour of coding. This is a service one like the tutoring, my price, my COGS. Although they say zero for COGS when you're doing a service, your time is money, your time is value. So I would always have a line in there for my time, and then what does that look like? So always keep that in mind that your time is valuable. Your time here with us tonight is valuable. It has a dollar amount to it. Um, oh, okay, so we're here. All right, I thought I had more slides to go. Um, any questions? I'm gonna open it up to you all for any questions with regards to what we've discussed tonight. If you have any questions for me, thinking about being a CEO of your own business, I'm so excited to have spent this time with you all, and just keep your CEO hat on, but understanding the value, understanding the cost before you set the price. Any questions? Yes.
So, like, for the scenario, like, if you were to bring in the 10 clients first, right?
Yep.
What if, like, most of those clients don't like the soap that you're using and you lose those clients? Wouldn't it be better to get the better soap so just in case those 10 clients come, they already have what they're looking for, or you already have what they're looking for?
So I would answer that slightly different for you. So you can have your $30 price, you can have a tiered service, right? Now, if they want to get the premium soap, they got to pay a premium price. And that's how you differentiate the difference between your base service and your base level and wanting to charge more before you just go out and spend all of this money. So it's always good to have, your base service, but if they want the premium, the premium sauce, the better seats, you pay for that.
Oh, that Miss Regina, it reminds me of going to the car wash. I don't know how many of you have driven through the car wash and you look at that board. It's like a matrix, but basically, it's like
Exactly.
it starts at like $10, but it's like, oh, you want to wash the wheels? We add a little bit. You want us to wash under the car? You add a little bit. You want that wax? You could end up at $50 where the price started at 10.
Absolutely. And let's break it down even further. Even if you go to Wendy's or Burger King, like that Whopper or that burger, if you want stuff on it, there's different prices, right? Like you got to think of it as a level of customer service. And people like to feel that Like if you charge them a premium, people like premium prices, right? Because I'm getting something different. So just think about it.
Mm.
Any other questions?
All right.
Professor Jay, I'll
Thank
turn it back over to you.
thank you so much, Miss Regina. So yeah, so this is day one of applications of business, and we will be back tomorrow. And one thing I wanted to call out for everybody here, I realize we did not specifically call this out last week. So before our tomorrow, if everyone could kind of either A, if you know you're definitely gonna pursue doing a business concept for your pitch for end of course, your elevator pitch, or if you want to do guided research. Um, so by the end of the course, we want you guys to focus on one or the other, right? So you're going to do a business that you're interested in or guided research. Has anyone given any thought to that? I know some shared, but go ahead, you guys could jump in.
Can you elaborate more on what like the guided research is?
Yeah, so we brought the guided research just in case folks don't actually have a business concept that they want to pursue or study for this course. So the guided research could be like a college you want to go to or an industry that you're interested in. So maybe you're like, hey, I just really want to research, medical supplies or whatever it might be. So like a subject or a school, a college that you're interested in. One student in the past did pilot, like she wanted to be a pilot, and she's actually doing her pilot lessons now, but her guided research was on how to become a pilot. That makes sense. So like how many of you are on the business track? Like you're here and you're like, hey, you know what? I want to go forward, just continuing pursuing like the business option here for the rest of the cohort. Okay. And is everyone else doing the guided research or just you want some more time to think about it? I see Stephanie and Stephanie said yes to guided research. Kimberly. Okay. All right. So we'll keep that in mind. And Miss Regina, for tomorrow, for the next cohort, the next class, pretty much we have it focused on, I guess, applications of entrepreneurship. And we'll just probably spend a couple minutes like tonight. It could be like the same thing, like 8:20. We'll go over a little bit more the end of class because then next week is preparing for the presentations.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Absolutely.
Um,
Look forward to
awesome.
being with you guys tomorrow.
All right, class surveys in the chat. So please complete the class survey. And if you have no other questions after you complete the class survey, you're free to go. Yeah, almost see X in the chat.
Everyone.
Kimberly and Stephanie said guided research. Was there anyone else for guided research? I think both Stephanie said guided research.
Professor Jay, are they limited on their guided research or they can choose any topic or anything?
Yeah, it's open. It's any topic.
That's what's up.
Okay, Summer, I'll put you down too for guided research.
Guided research, you were saying is like for like what kind of college you want to go to or another topic?
College, career interest, is typically the realms that we do it on. So like if you're interested in like becoming a doctor or a chef, like you could do a research on that. We can resend the outline for that too, so you guys have it. But basically you would research that and like your end of course presentation will be you sharing what you discovered from your research. All right. Got a good little list in the chat. All
Yeah,
right.
I see Ivy, Caroline, and Jalen.
Okay, so the business track basically is you preparing yourself to be like starting your own business, right? So for the end of this cohort, the fundamentals, you would do an elevator pitch, which is you have 1 minute to a minute and a half to present your business idea. So you will share, your business concept, what it's about, if you have any costs, what the value is, and you have just about a minute to share that. And that's called an elevator pitch. So we'll actually be going deeper into the elevator pitch next week. But if there's if you have that kind of seed in your head, like, hey, you're kind of curious about starting a business and doing that, that's definitely a good option as well.
Is there like a form of a pitch we have to do for the guided research as well?
A format? Yeah, we'll resend that email. So yeah, so there's like an outline and like kind of like a list of items that like we're looking to get from you in that research. It's nothing too crazy though. It's pretty much just encouraging you to, take the time, look into it, and document it and share it back out.
I
Sure.
see you, Roxy. I have you.
All right. All right. So yeah, so I'll ask them our VA to resend out that end of course doc that goes over the guided research and the business track. And then we could talk about it more tomorrow too, just to make sure everyone's clear on that.
The end of
All
course
right.
guidelines, they're in the emails that you guys get for your reminders for your classes. It's in there too, just to let you guys know.
Okay, yes, right. It is in everyone. I wasn't 100% sure. Okay. So there you go. If you check your emails, it should be an attachment in there already. Even better. Is everyone getting the emails? You guys are getting the class reminders and stuff like that? All right, cool, cool, cool. All right. Any other questions? We're good. Did everyone do the survey? Cool.
What I
Oh,
did really quick, sorry to
mhm.
interrupt you, JR. I put the
No
Google
problem.
Doc link in there when you guys are asking about the guided end of course guidelines, the Google Docs in the chat. But it's also in the email, like I said, that you guys get for reminders of your classes.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Miss Regina. We will see you all tomorrow.
Have a good evening, everyone.